Hello, I'm Ryan Schwertfeger, and we're here with Oakland Mayor John Szabo. Nice to meet you.
How are you, Ryan?
I'm doing okay. Ready for some three questions?
Shoot away.
Okay, well, as you know, this fall you're going for your third term as Oakland's mayor. And when you decided to run, I looked, and in the record, you were quoted as saying that there was unfinished business you had to do as mayor. What is that unfinished business?
Well, there were a number of major initiatives that I had committed to early on and what I had ran on originally as mayor. It was very important to me that we achieve certain things. One of which, of course, was the redevelopment of the downtown, which was a top priority for a lot of reasons, not the least of which was for economic development. Obviously, we want to not only aesthetically improve the downtown, but we also want to make it functional, and we want to provide jobs, and we want to be able to raise our rateable base to assist us financially. It all boils down to sustainability. You know, how do we sustain ourselves economically in the borough? So it was very important to me to bring my skills as a planner, this is what I do in my professional life, to try to address what I saw were major issues in the downtown, which was lack of investment, lack of capital improvement, just the aesthetic view of the downtown. But it runs deep. It runs very deep. It's not just the way it looks, but we have to get to the core functions of the downtown and what is it, and what is it providing, and what isn't it providing, and why is it stagnating, and it's a very complex issue. So that issue has to be resolved for the borough to go forward. Fiscal times are getting harder and harder, and it's going to be more and more important for us to generate revenues to support the services that the people of Oakland have come to expect. You know, we recently redid our assessment of property value in the borough to try to even out values based upon the economic times that we're facing. And we lost on average 15 to 17% of value. So the critical thing is, how do we function as a community and how do we recapture that? And what you do to recapture that is to create value where you have resources. And our downtown needs to be made into a better resource. Once you make that an attractive resource, people start to invest. When investments come in, property values rise. When property values rise, people find Oakland a desirable place to live. When they find a desirable place to live, then property values for residential start to rise. And so we start to recapture some of that value. So it was critically important for me to see that project through. And what is holding up that whole downtown redevelopment is not the planning of it, because we do have a plan that was vetted out publicly. We've had at least 5 public hearings, presentations on what the vision is for the downtown. At the heart of the issue is the sewers. You know, you cannot revitalize, you cannot regenerate, you cannot stimulate development in the downtown without sewers. That is the major debilitating factor that is preventing us from achieving what we really want to achieve there. Now, anybody who has learned or knows anything about the process of getting a wastewater management plan approved and trying to get a sewer line approved and to direct the sewer somewhere knows that it is an incredibly difficult and complex issue. So what we're doing is, and compounded by, well, why is it difficult? Because you're dealing with planning agencies that have greater jurisdiction and superiority over us in terms of power. You have the New Jersey DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, who actually has to approve the plan. And on top of that layer of government, we have the Highlands Council. And, you know, 2 very powerful regulatory agencies that we have to navigate through. And so while it has taken some time, we've made some major progress towards trying to resolve the conflicting regulations that are preventing us from achieving that vision, that goal. But it's going to take some more time. And given that I've spent so much effort and time planning and meeting and gathering up all the support in Trenton to implement this plan, you know, I felt obligated on behalf of the people of Oakland. You know, I made this promise that I was going to see this through. So that's one of the things. You know, in terms of other things, that's the main reason. In terms of other objectives that I wanted to see accomplished, I mean, we've accomplished a lot. I wanted to see the borough operate on a financially stable basis. We've done that, so I'm pretty pleased. Pretty much, you know, the council has been very supportive, and through the efforts of Council President Frank DePentema, who's the chairman of the Finance Committee, working very hard with our finance officer, our business administrator, and the governing body. He's led the charge, and we are very lucky and fortunate to have these professionals, including Mr. DePentema, working on this, that we're able to really stabilize our tax situation and our spending, which was an enormous accomplishment. And of course, open space. We've done a lot of things with that as well. Up until my tenure, we hadn't purchased anything. And I'm proud to say that we've gotten over 100 acres of open space, which I promised at the very outset that it was important to me as a planner that we protect the character of our community, which is Oakland, which is trees, green, and everything else. There's still unfinished business. There's still more property that I think we need to look into purchasing, and I think that that's something that needs to be addressed. So things like that I wanted to follow through on. But most importantly, the downtown, because the key there, and the reason, and I'll wrap up with this, is the heart of the town is the downtown. Why? Because that is where we will generate our financial economic development basis. That is where we foresee meeting our affordable housing needs in terms of meeting our mandates under the Supreme Court Mount Laurel decision. That's where we're going to put it. We're not going to wipe out the mountains to put housing. We're going to put it where the infrastructure is, which is downtown. So we're going to meet that piece of it. And also create a community place where we can walk, gather, enjoy company, and just walk around and say, this is a great place to hang out. So that's really the core function of what I'm looking at.
Okay. Over the last 8 years, we've been faced with many different challenges in town. There's the flooding in the Pleasureland area. There's the whole thing with the downtown with the sewers. As mayor of Oakland, you talked about a lot of the downtown from the last question, but regarding the flooding, what have you done as mayor to help those people?
Well, flooding is one of those issues that really extends beyond the borders of Oakland. I mean, to understand hydrology involved in the flooding that is involved in that, you need to understand how water flows, how river basins and drainage basins work, and the impact of development on that. In terms of the flood control, when I became mayor, the main project and focus was the Army Corps gate project at the end over by Pompton Lake. And what that was supposed to do was control the flow of water so that when there was a situation where waters would rise to a certain level, the gates would automatically function to release the water so that it would not flow back into the Pleasureland area. And the colony area was also benefited by this project. It was a $20 million plus federal project. We could never undertake something like that. It seems like I've been dealing with flooding issues from the day I started as mayor, because even while that project was being constructed, the way the coffer dams were laid out, the way the project was being constructed, it was like hitting a brick wall and the water was flowing back and people were impacted. And so I had to spend a lot of time working with the DEP and the Army Corps to try to fix and modify the project so that while they're constructing it, it wasn't flooding out people that normally wouldn't get flooded during normal rain circumstances. And that was difficult because the Army Corps is the federal government and they had their own timelines and projects. And they worked on that, but so I had to change my focus on pushing them to finish the project as quickly as possible, which is what we did. And it was completed. And it's been actually quite successful. But that's only one piece of the puzzle. We are very, very much aware that there are sections of Roosevelt that flood, that there are sections that flood beyond there. We know that there's a scouring situation in the river. And what we've been doing is we've been trying to engage the federal government and state government to deal with these flooding issues. So what we've done, we have petitioned for money. We've been told that there is no funding, but we've supported a Senate bill by our Senator Cardinale, who is seeking to create a streamlined bill to streamline the process of cleaning and desnagging rivers, and also to provide a permanent funding source for that. We will be in line for that money should that bill pass, and we've been pressing that and lobbying for that bill very hard. And in fact, through the auspices of Cardinale's office. I mean, we've been very supportive of him getting that through because we feel that that would benefit us. We finished the Alaman Brook project. There was a section of Alaman Brook that needed to be stabilized. We completed that project. That was using funding from FEMA based on the Floyd floods. That's how far back that goes. So I was able to complete that project. What we're looking at is engaging our engineers to look at the conditions of the river. We've OPRA and OPRA, Open Public Records Act, critical information from the state to analyze the hydrology of the water coming off of the 287 bridge, because we have a deep suspicion that the water coming off that bridge is not being detained in a way that it should be and is contributing to the flooding and the scouring and the erosion of the river as it's affecting Oakland. We've just been informed through Betsy, Councilwoman Stagg, who's a civil engineer herself, that they have finally found the records and they will be providing that. We will have our engineers go through that and we're going to find what exactly is going on, because really in order to solve the problem, you got to understand it. People want instant fixes, and part of the problem is, when I said earlier that flooding extends beyond, the causes of flooding extend beyond the boundaries of Oakland. The reason for that is development. What does that mean? When people tell you, Mayor, I've never seen it this bad before. And I'll ask, well, over 50 years I've never seen it. Well, what's happened over 50 years? Every time a tree is pulled out of the soil, every time a building goes up, whether it's a house, whether it's a parking lot, any kind of building, anything that drains, that prevents drainage, where does that water go? It goes into the river. And the river only has so much capacity to carry water. So it's a land use issue that goes beyond the borders of Oakland. So we've been engaged with the Passaic River Basin Task Force, Flood Task Force, to see what solutions they're bringing forward. It's a land use issue in terms of trying to curtail development in the floodplain. I think one of the biggest things we could have done, and we did, was purchase Heritage Hills. Imagine a floodplain. There was approvals. Good night. There were approvals for over 400 senior housing units there in the floodplain. Fortunately, that development got put on hold. Eventually, got withdrawn by Baker. Baker Development was the developer, and we stepped in and said, "Listen, this should never be developed. This is only going to contribute to flooding. Open space preservation is critical to the control of flood conditions," and that's what we did. We purchased that piece. The opportunity came up using our open space tax and utilizing Green Acre funds. We were able to purchase that, and county funds. We were able to purchase that money. We leveraged our funds with those dollars, and we're able to come up with a very nice piece of property that at some point we'll leave alone. We'll have some modest development of it for park purposes only, trails maybe. It would be nice to have a river walk. We're looking into providing a river walk along the river through there, linking up with the rec fields. And how nice would that be? People would be able to enjoy the river and also respect nature as they walk through. They could see the ecology of it. So purchasing that was a major, I think, benefit to controlling flooding. I think that's the best thing. When we purchased New Jersey Capitol up on the mountain here, that was also another significant factor in helping to reduce flooding, because that was slated for development. All that runoff, all that water would have hit the river and contributed to flooding. Now the flooding upstream is more complex because it's all the water coming from Rockland County, upstate, from the Ramapo. How do I control that? I can't. Then you have the complex issues of the bridge, 287 drainage, that all has to be analyzed. I mean, all these are coming together as factors. And what we're doing is working through Congressman Garrett's office. We have the Army Corps, we're engaging the Army Corps of Engineers to come in to provide their expertise in analyzing what the heck is going on. And the reason I say that is because we're a small town, we have a limited budget. Studies that go into trying to figure out what to do and how to do it can cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this is where I think federal government, state government has a proper role to play in coming in and assisting a small community like ours, because they have the resources. So those are the kinds of things we're looking at, some of the things that we've done. There's going to be no overnight solution, and I've told people that flooding will continue because we're not going to be able to reverse the development trends that have occurred upriver and upstream. We're not going to knock all those homes down, and we're not going to be able to revert the land back to its natural state. So, but we can mitigate to the degree we can. I know Councilwoman Staggers and engineers looked at creating a series of holding areas to try to hold back some of the flood waters. She's investigating that. She can probably speak to that more than I can as a civil engineer. So, you know, we're taking very positive steps to address it, but there's no overnight solution, just like with the downtown. There's no overnight solution.
Okay, one last question for you. In this most recent poll I've done, my primary poll of 2011, I asked the other respondents how well they know the candidates running. So I just said the names and asked, you know, have you heard of this person? Have you not? Are you not sure? And when I asked if they've heard of your name, every single person said that they had. So 100% people said yes.
Okay.
I was going to ask, besides being Oakland's mayor, why do you think so many people know who you are?
Well, you know, when you're mayor, I guess you have that notoriety coming from the responsibilities of your office. I think Channel 77 is a great contributor to exposure, not only for myself, but for the council members, as well as for the public who wants to come forward and talk. I attend many public functions because I am, you know, as mayor, I try to engage, you know, everyone and try to be everywhere I can be, given, you know, the limits of time and family obligations. Those are the kinds of responsibilities. I'm the spokesman, I am the representative, so to speak. You know, you get press. I mean, you know, you're in the paper, good or bad, whether you like it or not. I mean, it's part of the job. So I'm not surprised people, I mean, I'm kind of heartened by that in one way, at least because people should know who their mayor is. I'm more appalled by people who are less informed. I have no idea who my representatives are. Well, you know what? It's important. It doesn't matter how they feel, good or bad. I'm pleased they know. They should, because it means that they're an engaged public. And that's important, because an informed public is one that is going to watch out for its interests and keep its government honest, you know. So I'm pleased with that. Now, that may work against me if a lot of those folks know me and don't want to vote for me. Well, that's okay too. I get that, because that's the process. So I have to believe that it's just part and parcel to the office, you know, and we have a very smart constituency in Oakland. Anyone who feels otherwise is selling the public short here. They're very bright people, and you know, I trust their judgment, and I think that they're savvy, and that I think that's reflective of it. And they're an engaged community. They care about Oakland. That's what makes Oakland so great. Why we have such a great volunteer corps. You know, why we moved to Oakland and places like Oakland. You know, I was attracted to Oakland because small community, tight community, great schools, parks, mountains. I mean, what's there not to like? And so I'm not surprised.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Good talking to you, Mayor Szabo, and good luck.